You've tried explaining yourself calmly. You've tried giving him space. And somehow he still shuts down when the conversation actually matters. But here's the part no one tells you. The way you're responding in that moment might actually be the thing that keeps that pattern going. In today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do in that moment so it doesn't turn into the same argument again and you don't feel more disconnected every time it happens. But first, I want to acknowledge something. This dynamic that you're in is really hard to deal with. If you have a partner who consistently shuts down, you're not the only one who should be fixing this. Yes, there are things on your end that you can change which will affect the interaction you have with one another when things come up. But in a dynamic like this, both people need to take responsibility for the dynamic. But what I'll focus on in this video is what's your part in this pattern and how to stop this from turning into the same repetitive argument every time. The first thing I want you to do is to stop overfunctioning in the relationship. If you feel like the burden of fixing all this dynamic falls on you because all he does is shuts down all the time and you're the one who's consistently trying to fix it, you can very easily fall into overfunctioning, over-explaining, overcompensating, trying to do both sides of the work. And then you end up in a place where you're like, I'm doing everything, but nothing's changing. If you're at that point, you actually have to look at the relationship objectively and ask yourself, why is our dynamic set up this way? Why doesn't he feel the need to step up and actually communicate? And kind of asking yourself, why am I letting him get away with this? Why am I letting this dynamic unfold the way it's been unfolding for us? Why am I not expecting more work and accountability and care? Because here's the honest truth. If you keep carrying this relationship forward and the responsibility for fixing the relationship alone, he never has to. So if this sounds like you right now, I want you to actually start standing up for yourself and say things like, I don't feel heard. I'm not happy with how things are going. This pattern is actually hurting me. And of course, you're not doing this aggressively, but you are doing it with clarity because you know deep down you deserve to be in a relationship where you're actually feeling happy and your emotional needs are met. And if you don't start believing in that, you'll keep tolerating this negative dynamic. Now, that's only one layer of this. But let's get into the actual moment when he actually shuts down, because that's when things either escalate or change. So here's what usually tends to happen. When he shuts down, your nervous system reacts immediately. Because when he shuts down for your nervous system, if you are a partner who's looking for more connection, repairing the rupture, staying connected, and you're kind of the caretaker of the relationship, you want things to stay connected and intact. And when he shuts down, it feels like, oh, my partner just disappeared. So your alarms go off. And that's a very normal thing. But when the alarms go off, you are in a bit of a fight or flight mode. You are in a bit of a survival mode. Your nervous system starts going into this hyper arousal with you feeling more frustrated, you feeling ignored, and you feeling like, oh my God, here we go again. I shared something with him and he's shutting down again. So there's a bit of a hopelessness that we're in that cycle again. And then without realizing it, your behavior, your tone starts to change. You may notice your voice getting more high-pitched, more fast-paced, just like it would if you're angry at someone or frustrated. You may get kind of short with him and get reactive, and your body language starts to show this frustration. Maybe you roll your eyes without realizing it, or you start blaming or using you statements. You always do this. You never listen to me. Here we go again. You shut down again. I'm never heard in this relationship. So that tells you you're super, super activated in that moment. And even though your frustration makes sense, I want to tell you that this is the exact thing that may be actually making things worse for you and escalating things. Because what's happening in that moment is you're pushing more, he shuts down more, you push more in response, he shuts down more again, and you're stuck in that loop again. Here's what you need to do instead to stop the escalation. Even though your nervous system is activated, you need to catch it. If you're noticing him getting frustrated or shutting down and going quiet, there's no point in continuing to push right then. Because yes, sometimes you might get an answer, but a lot of the time you're actually making the cycle worse. So instead, I want you to pause and say something like this. I'm noticing we're getting into that dynamic again. I don't want this to turn into an argument for us. I care for us. I want us to understand each other. I'm just trying to get some understanding from you right now. I don't want to push hard if you're not ready to talk about it. I'm going to take a step back and we can revisit this later. And then you actually take that space. If you're sitting here thinking, okay, but I don't really catch myself in that moment, or I catch myself right after the cycles happen and we've had an argument. So it's hard for me to stop the cycle in the moment and even actually know what the cycle is that we're both stuck in. That's exactly why I created my mini course, Conflict to Reconnection. Because this isn't just about saying one sentence differently. It's about understanding the exact pattern you're in and how you're unintentionally feeding it. If you want help breaking this cycle so that you can start having conversations that are productive, where you feel understood by your partner and you feel like you're being heard, you can take the mini course at ParisaCounselling.com/forward-relationship course or sign up for it in the link right in the description below. But stay with me because the next part is really important. Because stepping away is one thing, but how you come back into the conversation is where most people undo all their progress. When you come back to the conversation, the biggest mistake you can make is to come back being emotionally charged. You come back to the same conversation, but instead of having a soft startup like, this is how I feel, it's more of a harsh startup. You're still frustrated, your tone is still angry and agitated. And of course, in a situation like this, it's very likely that it will be the same outcome again. He'll respond to you the same way. So instead, I want you to come back differently to the conversation. I want you to take more of a softer, detached approach, kind of like a therapist approach, like someone who's not super emotionally invested in the conversation, almost like an observer who just observed this dynamic. You say something like, earlier when we were talking, I noticed that you got quiet. I stopped because I didn't want this to turn into an argument. I want to be able to better understand you, and I want the same for myself. And that's why having a conversation about this is still very important to me. And then you open the door. I'd also like to understand what was going on for you in that moment too. So you're approaching it not from a one-sided way. Like, this is how I felt, but I'm also curious about how that moment felt for you. So then he feels like he matters, his feelings matters, and you pull him into this dialogue. So this is not just about you and your agenda, because both of your feelings are involved in this. Basically, you're not blaming, you're not attacking him for going silent, you're just pointing out the pattern. And then there is another important layer to this. What matters next is actually how you express yourself in that moment. Tell me, in moments like this, how do you actually express yourself? Do you share your feelings in a more frustrated way or in a more calm way? Write calm or frustrated in the comments. Also, slowly, if you're noticing the pattern that's forming between the two of you when these conversations happen, write the word pattern in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Now, here's why this really matters, and almost every couple that I see in my practice struggles with this. If you're pointing out only what he's doing wrong, that will for sure increase defensiveness and a shutdown. Instead, I want you to focus on just yourself and sharing your feelings using I statements. Using I statements, you say something like this. When you go quiet like that, it makes me feel like I'm not being heard or my feelings are not important for you. I feel ignored, and that really hurts. So what you're doing now is, instead of criticizing him and making him go into more of a self-protective mode, you're communicating the impact. But here's the part that most people miss. Even if you get really good at handling these moments, if the pattern itself doesn't change, you're going to keep ending up right back there. Same argument, same frustration, because this isn't just about one conversation. It's a pattern between the two of you. And if that pattern doesn't change, you're going to keep feeling unheard. If you want to learn how to actually change this pattern at the root, so this stops happening in the first place, that's exactly what I'll walk you through in the video on your screen right now.